going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to be looking at Tom Davis. I believe this was a suggestion from a little while back. I guess back when he called himself America's Canine Educator, which he's not America's Canine Educator of anything. But in this video, he's going to be explaining how to safely correct your dog. If you have to worry about safely correcting your dog, then you probably shouldn't be correcting him at all. You shouldn't be working with them at all if you're worried about causing harm from a correction. I can correct a dog without ever touching them, and it's not because I'm using, electric or metal tools. It's just changing my behavior, changing my body, changing what I do with and around the animal. So, anyway, using this footage under Fair Use Act for education, criticism, giving my point of view, explaining why I don't think you need to correct your dog in any of the ways he's going to tell you, but that's just my opinion. If you like him and you want to follow him, by all means, go ahead and follow him. Please do. Support him. If you like what I'm doing, then you're welcome to support me. I appreciate every comment and, even like or dislike. It's free country. You can let me know what you think. Comments and subscriptions, of course, I always appreciate that. If you want to check out my Patreon, you certainly can. The option is there, but, there's no obligations by any means. If you're looking to have training and you live in the northern Washington area, you can, check out my website. Or reach out if you're interested in any board and train for a young adult dog or a puppy, if you're looking to just get started with a new puppy and kind of, kickstart that. But, or don't do any of that. The choice is totally yours. It's just out there. So we're going to get into this.
Grab a slip collar really quick and start going over this process. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with a slip collar, it's also known as a dominant dog collar.
No, that is incorrect. It should not be called a dominant dog collar because dogs are not dominant. You're acting like it's a behavioral trait. There's no dog out there that is just a dominant dog. That is just a ploy, a gimmick, a label people put, just like saying that, it doesn't exist. Dominance is a momentary action or a momentary behaviors. So slip collar, choke collar, he makes them tiny, smaller than his, you'll see here in a minute,
call it a slip, it's a little bit
smaller
easier.
Than
and
his
all it does is it
his hoodie string. This is a
just
noose,
pressure
and he uses this collar on dogs. He uses the exact width of this on a Rottweiler, on a Saint Bernard, on a Cane Corso, same as he would on a Border Collie or a Shiba or I'm trying to think of other smaller breeds, probably a Pomeranian too. It's just as bad on an American Eskimo or a Pomeranian as it would be on a Samoyed or a Husky or a Malamute. But it's going to be that much more painful because of surface area.
You pull through, or if the dog pulls through. So you have your slip here.
Your noose.
Basically what this does is it goes through and it slips down.
It creates a noose.
lot of people think that when you put this collar on to the dog and they pull against it, that the actual pressure from when they pull is the correction, or that's what's supposed to stop them from actually pulling.
But you just teach them to ignore the lightest bit of pressure. Look, I could teach any dog to wear something as light as this and give into a finger's worth of pressure without teaching them through pain. Meaning I don't even have to put this around their throat. I could tie this to their harness and teach dogs to give into a finger's worth of pressure on a rope this small through time and training them to give into pressure lightly, not by using, pain and force and I would use a lot of surface pressure on a harness.
On the contrary, dogs will literally choke themselves out, cough, hack, so on and so forth, until they get to what they want, because they do not care about this excessive force around
No,
them.
they absolutely do care about the excessive force, but they don't know how to stop it. That's what opposition reflex is. It's a push into a push or a pull into a pull. The more you pull back on them, the more they want to fight it. It's just instinct. As if I'm trying to go behind you and push you off the edge of a cliff, you're going to fight it. Even if, it's not really a cliff. If it's a chalk drawing on the floor and you think, the illusion makes you think it's a cliff. And I push you and then you realize, oh, okay. It's just...
neck. Now this is the same exact thing with the prong collar. Oftentimes...
It's not the same exact thing because
The dog
this causes that much more pain. Because versus this flat buckle collar versus even this rounded, I don't like rounded collars around a dog, because again, it digs in. But these have tiny little points in them that cause more pain. And this prong collar alone and this pressure is causing this dog to be reactive, along with whatever else might be over here. If this dog were on a harness or on a loose leash, they may not be as reactive.
dog pulls through and they feel that pressure.
But they're only being held back because of the pain of the prong collar. And he's doing this to set the dog off, to show a before and after, to make an excuse for why he trains the way he does.
Now, the actual correction is going to come from you as the handler. The success of your correction and the success of your dog learning new behaviors and modifying...
No, not learning new behaviors. You're forcing and suppressing their behaviors. Dogs have, in my mind, any animal I work with has the right to take away consent. I don't care if it's a dog or a horse or a ferret or a fish. If I'm working with them or interacting with them and they say no, or they move away, or say I'm working with a horse and I try to get them to lead one way and they stop and they say, no, I want to go this way. Okay, let me figure out what we're doing. Is this really an act of them, being defiant? Because that can happen. And it does happen. Or is it, something bigger? Either way, if I'm working, everybody always talks about, if I'm working with a dog and everybody says, oh, they're stubborn. It's like, no, they're not stubborn. They don't understand what we want, or we're not understanding what they need.
Behaviors is going to completely be predicated off of you, the handler, and your skill sets with actually applying these tools properly. This is going to the core of what I'm talking about.
It means that you happen to have good enough timing to show the dog that when you do this, if you shut up and stop reacting, then you stop getting pain.
About corrections. We're not talking about specifics, healing, what collar, so on and so forth.
You don't need any collar to teach heel. Like, literally, you don't need any collar. This is a video I have on my channel showing how I teach my Shiba, or I taught him, this is a couple of years old, and rest in peace, old man, I love you. This is how I taught him, even for demonstration purposes, how to heal.
So first, there's certain ways you can teach your dog to go.
And keep in mind, he has nothing on. He has no collar, no harness, no leash, nothing.
And walk in the proper position. You can have them go behind you and turn around.
Oh, I got me.
I really don't care which way if he does that or if he spins into heel or whatever.
Yeah, see, I don't care. I never ever used heel, like very rarely. See, he's allowed to walk away.
Spin into heel. Personally, for me, it's easier if they just.
I don't care where he goes. I can just call him back. I'm not forcing him to be in a certain position. Keep his head up.
Just have him go behind me.
So he's not used to moving around onto my right side. So I'm teaching heel on the right side, a whole new behavior, and this is how I teach it. Aww. I miss his little face. I miss that little boy.
I keep my hand flat as a visual for him. So if I take...
We just passed his 2-month, well, a couple days ago, a little while ago, 2-month anniversary of him and his passing. But the whole time, I'm standing there getting distracted. I know I tricked him, I'm sorry, but but he didn't move away. He could have. I would have just reset him. He's not freaking out, or he's standing there on his own. I don't need a leash or collar to keep him there. So then we turn around, I take a step, I mark and reward.
You have to touch it. He's looking at whatever you want.
That cute little butt.
It's just here as a visual.
He's like, whatever, Mom. So this is how I teach heel. I don't need any tools. And I would use the same method when teaching pretty much anything. You don't need any tools on them. You don't need to rely on corrections.
Having your empty hand.
Empty hand.
One step. And then
He follows 3 or 4 steps. He just licked my hand. There was no treat there. But I'm still able to reward him afterwards. That click there was delayed, by the way. I'm distracted, but I'm just letting you know that click there was delayed. But if you wanted to build up duration, then you could have waited and then clicked.
But away from even the hand signal. So you can take 1 step, mark and reward that. And during this time, I don't give him the verbal yet. You can at any point if you wish. I just really want to have
so I turn around.
Behavior down.
He doesn't know to follow. I just tap my leg. I don't have to pop him. I don't have to correct him. I could have called his name. I get distracted by fuzz.
seeing as it is
You know, like, it's not serious, but I still don't have to correct
then I
him.
can
He's
say,
still
"Heel."
just sitting there.
Good man. Because I know he's going to follow me with the behavior, heel. Then I can start
I'm working too fast, but this is to show you just an example of that. Ah, look at you, but. So. So that's just to show you an example that you don't need any tools to teach your dog really anything. You know, when you move into more distracting areas, of course we want a harness and a leash or something to keep them, you know, safe and keep them from running around unless they're reliable off leash. I'm not saying that, but just you don't need specific tools to teach anything.
About how to actually correct with any type of collar that you put on your dog, as well as where to put it, how to fit it, so it's effective and you actually can get.
So it causes the most pain and pressure with the least amount of force or leverage.
Correction is a mechanical thing. You have to have enough leverage to be able to pop the collar.
So you don't need to pop anything.
The collar can come up and distribute that pressure at once, so the dog goes, "Hey, what do you want me to do?"
No, I mean, yeah, maybe the dog is confused. They don't know why they did it. So it's not really communication. It just says, hey, stop that, try something else. Stop that, try something else. Stop that, try something else. And they get frustrated.
Correction on the leash is really just to get their attention.
No, it's not. It is to tell them to stop doing what they're doing. Otherwise, if you say it's just to get their attention, then why would you use a leash pop? Why do you need a metal prong collar on? Why do you need a shock collar on? If it's just to get their attention, you can tap them. How did I get Adonis's attention? Let's go back. If it is just to get their attention, this is how I get my dog's attention.
Good boy. Tapped myself.
I just tapped my leg. It wasn't even really loud. I didn't say his name. He was distracted over here. There's also cat food over here because it's Hermes' food. Hermes' little pee pad over here. All sorts of distractions. All I had to do.
That behavior down. Good boy.
That's it. To get his attention. What is your excuse? You don't have one other than just being ignorant or stubborn. Well, you know, get over yourself.
Works so effectively is because instead of having one point of pressure here, like the
no, that's not one point of pressure. He's gonna try and lie about the prong collar having multiple points of pressure. This has more of a solidified amount of pressure, all the way around, versus smaller points of pressure. It's like laying on a bed of nails. You can lay on 200 million nails. Say the point of this collar.
Like the slip collar, it has probably 20 points of pressure.
No, it doesn't. So I was trying to show you the point of that, but anyway, you can have them at the point of this collar, the tiny little points. 200 million of those that you lay on, and you won't notice it nearly as much as if you had laid on 20 nails, because your whole body, that surface area, you have a lot more surface area per each individual point than you do for your entire surface area of your body. The more you spread out, the less painful it is. That's why these work, because there's a few of these points going around the dog's wide neck.
So it actually harnesses and evenly distributes pressure.
No, it doesn't. It does evenly distribute, but it's the same as the slip blade, but it causes more pain because there's less surface area from each of those points. And it's metal, and it digs in.
The dog's neck. If you don't like prongs or they're illegal for whatever reason,
for whatever reason. So now he's throwing out, if they're illegal for whatever reason, I don't know why. They're illegal because they're cruel. They cause harm and pain and force, and people with an education have deemed that so.
Completely respect and understand that.
No, you don't. You really don't care.
Just talking about the application on how to get the dog's attention. So, hit myself. So you can effectively.
Good boy.
Again, getting my dog's attention.
Myself, you need to...
I just tap my leg. Comes from when the dog kind of pulls forward. You're able to then use your leverage to correct the dog like this.
But it's around the neck, not around your wrist or your forearm. And it's not that light. It's around the throat, where you have the thyroid glands, you have blood vessels, you have the airway, the trachea. You have nerve endings. Very sensitive. And this tiny little bit allows leverage, because there's a tiny little rope around a large surface of area And so when you pull on it, especially at the end of a 6-foot leash or even 4-foot leash, whatever, you multiply. I just did a video on horses and their bits versus, you know, corrective collars. The more pain you cause, the less you need to use force, because you have leverage and multiplies the pain and force, and thus you get compliance.
Already taught and they're tight on the line, you lose all your leverage. You have to regain some leverage and pop back and be able to really...
Because as if pulling on it isn't enough, you need to cause more pain by loosening and then pop it on the noose. Gosh, this poor...
down.
I know this is a fake dog, but poor dog.
Comes right on time, so the dog doesn't sit. You ask.
Oh yeah, because you can't get the dog to sit, so you have to pop it instead of just luring it, instead of just walking around and resetting and then asking for a sit. If you have to pop a dog to get him to sit, then you're just, again, you're a dummy.
Correct, release. Correct, release. And like I said, oftentimes what people do is this. And then the dog goes into panic mode, or they don't really know what to do.
Yeah, they wouldn't go into panic mode if you didn't have a fucking noose around their throat. They would not freak out.
They get all wiggly, and you're not really...
No, they don't get all wiggly. They think they're dying because you have a noose around their throat and you are choking and hanging them.
There. This is gonna come up. It's gonna pop the dog. It's gonna put pressure right on this point.
No, it's going to it puts pressure all the way around its neck, you idiot. What are you talking about? It's not just a little tap here. It is a quick choking and then it loosens. The whole thing is a correction. The whole thing, the dog feels the whole thing. You actually think people are going to believe this crock? They do.
Correct the dog here, really quick, and then it's going to release, and then really quick.
It's pulling the dog this way. If it was just tapping here, shouldn't it move the dog this way? But it's pulling the dog this way, which means all of that force is being pulled on the left side of the neck, and then it just gets really tight, and they feel it coming up under the jaw, under the chin. I guess under the jaw, you know, in the throat is where it gets tight.
So it's really defined, and you're really able to have clear lines of communication.
No, it's not clear lines of communication. It means you're giving a good correction that hurts enough that stops the dog from doing whatever you're asking them to do, or forces them to do a behavior you want them to do.
Dog does something wrong. So if you
dog does something wrong. No, the dog didn't do squat wrong. You're just a dummy and you set your dog up for failure. Don't blame the dog because you put them in a human situation. I feel bad even for this stuffed dog that he has to put up with this. I know it's an inanimate, object, I know, but I still feel bad for it.
A situation where your dog is actually pulling you like this. You see, when you're tight like this, you have no leverage, so you have no choice but to pull the dog back. What you need to do is make sure that the dog is here, and as soon as they...
No, you don't. You don't need to make sure the dog is forced in a heel and by your side and all this, nonsense. If a dog is pulling forward, just like I do on any harness, or collar, if it's on the side, then I simply just turn them to the right or the left, or I apply pressure. See, they're going straight this way. I will take as light of pressure as I can, because I'm not using any of these collars. I'm using a nice wide flat buckle collar or harness, and I will gently apply pressure to the right of their body at a 90-degree angle and get them to turn one step this way, and then I loosen.
Across that line, again, your collar, we're going to go over fitting in a minute.
He wants it to be high and tight, because there's more nerve endings here where you get more leverage and pain than you do right here where there's a lot more muscle.
It's here, you correct like this.
Jesus, dude!
And so when you...
Even on a fake dog, that's too harsh of a correction.
You have a prong collar and a bigger dog.
Oh, lovely. Oh, of course, because we have a bigger dog, so we need metal prongs in its throat. Again, ignorance. Tight, high prong collar.
More control over. This is a waste.
No, you have a bigger dog that you need more control over. No, it just means that you just like with horses, like I did in the last video, oh, my horse needs a bigger collar. Oh, my dog is out of control. They're bigger. They outweigh me, so I need to use more force. You lose control of your pet, or whatever animal you're working with the more forceful tools you use on them. You end up losing control of them, because without those tools, you are nothing. You have no bond. You have no education. And doesn't have to be like formal. I mean, you're not learning from your dog. You only rely on this tool. My horse needs a bigger bit. My horse needs a tie down. My dog needs a prong collar. My dog needs a shock collar. Oh, that doesn't work. Let's use both of them at the same time, a prong and a shock, and use a slip lead in case the prong collar breaks. Just nonsense.
Tool, because they're not going to continue then choke themselves.
I do like his pink socks though.
out, because this is the Herm Springer. I'll leave it in the link in the description below.
Yes, yes, yes. We all know you get a kickback. Who cares? They say it's the best prong collar out there, but they still break. That's why they have, slip leads in case one of the links come out and the dog is not at all bonded to their person, and they say I'm free, but they can't because the slip collar is on there too.
Dog pulls, you have all these points of pressure on the dog's neck all the way around instead of just one point of pressure.
I'm telling you again, it's not that one point of pressure. It's less points of pressure actually compared to as tiny as it is. That tiny rope had more surface area around this dog's neck, or maybe as much as these tiny little points. That's why it works, because you go up in pain, you go up in leverage. When you switch from a rope to a metal prong, from a simple rope as tiny as this shoestring, even to a metal prong with basically a bunch of pencil points going into your neck. Don't be fooled. That is more pressure, that is more pain.
Demonstrated last time. 2, 4,
There's
6.
less surface area. He's going to say 2, 4, 6, 8, blah, 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 blah. He's going to say, 25 points, it doesn't matter. It's still less surface area.
They're going to keep going because the prongs and the pressure this way doesn't affect the dog whatsoever. They do not.
No, it does actually. It causes them to continue moving forward because it causes frustration, it causes pain. So see, when I said, when you use these tools, you actually have less control over your dog. I mean it, because you're actually making them more out of control. And not out of control that, in a bad way, but like you're causing the behavior to get worse than having them on a harness where they don't feel pain and you're able to work them in their mind. Because now they're confused and they're afraid or they're frustrated and they're in pain. Whereas before, they might have just been confused and fearful and frustrated, but we can work with that. A bunch of knots in his leash. That's something that I look out for. When you have a leash with a bunch of knots in it, they use that to have a good grip on their leash for leverage, so they can pop the dog with a harsh correction.
Don't know. It's not like everyone's doing it wrong, and there's just no information out there.
Dog is shaking, probably because the prong collar is irritating its throat. The way he talks about safely correcting your dog. No, none of this is safely correcting your dog. But, you do whatever you want to do. Again, like I said, if you want to follow him, please do. There's his little subscribe button. You can go subscribe to him. He's Upstate Canine Academy. Go follow him, do what, all that good jazz. For those of you who liked this video and enjoyed my take on it, then thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. I do hope that you and your little ones and your two-legged ones are doing well. Please tell your little ones and your loved ones howdy do for me. Give them some kind of loving. And until next time, stay positive.